7. Shaurya. The professor was droning on at the chalkboard, his voice muddled in my ears. Propping my head on my arm, I found my eyes wandering to the windows. Some birds flew past, and I gazed at them unseeingly. The sharp sound of the chalk against the board demanded my attention. Clearing his throat, the professor went on, and I failed to comprehend the words thrust upon me. My mind refused to take in any more for the day. Leaning back in my chair, I rubbed my eyes and tried once more. This is going to be your homework today. I expect everyone to finish it for the next class. Be sure to read Chapter 7 and take notes. I will not, and I repeat, not cover that chapter in detail in class. Instead, we will take the information from your reading and practice a real scenario audit with the method it covers. If you have questions, be sure to have them ready at the start of class. He looked up at the clock behind him. My time's up. Have a blessed day. I darted out the door, not wanting to be trapped at my desk for even 1 second more. It was a gorgeous day, a mild breeze cutting through the heat. Zigzagging through crowds in the market, I caught a glimpse of a bright orange and yellow patterned skirt familiar to me. Slowing, I sat straighter on my bike and looked around. Another flash brought me to a stop, and I waved. Indeed, I had spotted Kasturi buying something from a shop, and I was starving for a chance to regain some of the inspiration she seemed to flood into me. Waving again with my hand held high, I inhaled, readying myself for a loud shout. Kasturi! She spun around, and when she saw me, she smiled her contagious smile. She waited for me to ride up to her and then said, Hi Shaurya, are you headed home? Yes, a couple of lectures were cancelled, so I was picking up some stationery for an assignment. And you? Same. Looking around, I nodded at the cafe nearby. Want to join me for some coffee? Her smile widened. Of course. I'm glad you seem to be feeling better today. It's been far too long since we sat and chatted. Sorry, I've had a lot on my mind lately. Parking my bike, I walked up and held the door open for her. This one is on me. Are you sure? She asked, sitting down at a table looking at me in surprise. It's the least I can do. The usual? She nodded in reply. I returned with our coffees, eager to spend some time alone with Kasturi. I didn't mean to come off as rude to your cousin. I just wasn't in a talkative mood. I noticed. She took a sip. But I don't think Mariah was in the mood to talk much either. She had a bad start to her day. I slid my chair closer. I can't say mine was much better. She plans on staying here for a while, she said. She looked a bit pensive then and continued, May I ask you to help her out? Make her feel welcome? Yes. Sure. Sipping my own coffee, I stole a moment to take in her eyes. So she's here to help with the renovations in your place, right? Yes. She gave a toothy smile. You should see her sketches. They're wonderful. Nodding, I felt as if her presence was lightening the weight of my regrets. I can't wait to see them. In fact, we finished the designs for the kitchen and we just broke ground to start the work in there. She sighed, her eyebrows lifting as she stared down to her coffee. Until we finish, we'll be eating out a lot. That's not such a bad thing. It was a rare chance for me to be the positive thinker. You can steal the opportunity to go to the movies, or do a little more shopping. Get out of the house. She laughed. Speaking of movies, what did you think of that new action flick that came out last week? I took a moment to think of which one she was talking about. The recent secret agent one? She nodded, drinking her coffee and awaiting my answer, her doe-like eyes on me. Well, the storyline fell flat, to be honest. I leaned back in my chair. The stunt work and action scenes were excellent, but I can't believe the plot was practically missing. A movie should tell a good story. Any director who fails to put a story in visual format is either lazy or has failed. It was just one epic action moment after another, but I suppose there are people out there who like that sort of film. Kasturi smiled, placing her coffee on the table. I felt confused and lost in the story, but hearing your insight, I realized that was what the problem was. It didn't have a story to follow at all. Shaurya, maybe you should consider going in the field. You always seem so knowledgeable about it. My expression halted her words. I've been thinking about being. I've been wanting to go after my dreams a lot lately. I would love to hear what that is someday. It was like she had dived into my soul, looking for my hidden dream. But it's not so easy to make that decision. Pausing, my eyes fell to my coffee, the steam swirling up, wrestling with itself much like my mind and heart. My family would prefer that I continue with the CA course. She frowned. But that's not your dream, is it, Shaurya? My chest ached to hear the fact said aloud, and it slammed my ears with unforgiving force. I have several dreams, Kasturi. That is only one, and most I cannot do without giving up on the others. She nodded. It's hard to take that risk, to tie yourself down to only one ambition, but even if you fail, you'll never live a life of regret. Life is forgiving. Every experience, failed or successful, is never wasted. All the time spent does work towards a final goal, some known and some newly discovered on the journey. You have to have faith in yourself, confidence in who you are and want to be, and be brave enough to take the steps towards achieving your dream. I lack the courage. I mumbled. Her hand touched mine, bringing my eyes back to hers as my heart fluttered. Shaurya, you lack faith in yourself most of all. Have faith. Courage will follow. Mustering a smile, I breathed. Thank you for the advice, Kasturi, but tell me, I said, eager to change the focus of our conversation, what of your dreams? What do you want out of life? Her face blossomed into a huge smile that reached up into her eyes. My dreams, she said. There are so many. She began to outline her hopes and goals for the future. As she put words to those dreams, I became enraptured by the pure joy, the utter excitement that threaded through her aspirations. I heard letters, MBA, MNC. It was like listening to a beautiful song, the kind that could make you weep with appreciation. I blinked quickly, realizing that tears were starting to gather in my own eyes at her excitement. Her words were filled with so much confidence, so much optimism. I was proud of her for having such a solid goal and not being afraid to go after it. At the same time, my own frustrations came to the surface again. I took a long sip of my coffee while I brought my emotions back in check. I lowered my cup and met her eyes once again. She laughed, a little self-consciously. They probably sound silly to you though, she said. No, I said, shaking my head passionately. They are perfect. They reflect you. Our eyes locked and held there for a long moment, and I could start to see other dreams gathering in hers. Dreams she had not given voice to. Could she see me as part of those wistful, secret plans? I cleared my throat. My eyes fell away from hers as I quickly grasped for a new topic of conversation. So, after the kitchen, which room will you renovate next? Furrowing her brow, she sighed at the sudden change of topic. We are still finishing the final touch-ups on the designs, but my mom wants her bedroom to be done next. Where will your mom sleep while her room is being renovated? I was relieved Kasturi had accepted the change in topic. I aimed to walk away from my hidden ambitions for the time being. I doubt she will accept sleeping on the couch. She laughed, and the last of the tension broke. Far as I was told, if we plan this well, they should be able to do the requested changes in a week. Don't forget she's not shy about telling me and Mariah to sleep on the couch while she claims my bed or the guest room. Smiling, I finished the last of my coffee. Well, Kasturi, I must get going. I have homework to do for tomorrow's class. You know how revisions can be. Do you need a ride home? She shook her head. I still have some work to do around here. You take care, Shaurya, she said, her smile warm. Thank you for the coffee, and we should get back in the habit of talking like this more often. I nodded with a smile. Dodging out the cafe door, I felt relieved to have ended the conversation before she had a chance to circle back to prying into my dreams. Despite the pressure, I was happy to get some words of encouragement. I needed the armor she gave me to face the inner conflicts needling me. Deep down, I was standing in my own way, but without decisiveness, I had no weapon to strike down the obstacles in my mind. 8. Mariah's diary. I had a wonderful phone conversation with my parents today. I miss them so much, but they are happy and healthy, so I am satisfied with that. Of course, they wanted to know how I am after. I don't even like to talk about that time in my life. I'm not ready to think about it. So I held a smile in my voice, and I told them that I was fine. Fine. It's amazing how such a small word can portray such an important state of mind. I guess I am fine, though. In fact, as I told my parents this on the phone, I was happy to realize that it really was true. I told them of my journey to Jaipur and how much fun it is to be with Kasturi again. Even though I am here to work, being with her gentle spirit reminds me of when we were kids. And I find that I am content once more. At least, I am much more content here than I was before. I wonder about Shaurya, though. He is a man who is far from fine or content. It's not really my business, nor do I want to make it my business. But I am so curious about the sadness that envelops him, like a cold breeze slipping under your warmest scarf. 9. Anubhav, Bangalore. I completed my MBA with high marks. Confident with my education and determination pushing me forward, I launched my tech startup in 6 months. I climbed to the top quickly, and those who worked with me were amazed at how rapidly the business took off. We celebrated our success one evening after the quarterly results showed that we were still in a high-growth period. My company was heading for record numbers and a glorious future. I couldn't wait to show my parents what I had built, my palace of sorts. In a way, I felt like a king at the table that night. Let's raise our glasses to Anubhav. One of my colleagues stood up and said, his cheeks red with alcohol. To his ingenious concept, and to his hunger for success. Thank you, Anubhav, for letting us join you on this amazing journey. A great roar of whistles, compliments, and clicking of glasses ran through the restaurant. We all drank from our glasses, and laughter ensued as everyone made it a point to pat me on the back. Anubhav, you have a natural talent as a businessman. My colleague who had given the toast had worked his way to me from across the table. You taught me so much during our time in college, and to see it in action, I am humbled. Laughing, I shook my head. I've been picturing this day since I was a child, believe it or not. Incredible. What a feeling it must be to achieve one's dream. Everyone's faces were a blur, nothing but the smiles clear in my eyes. Raising my glass, I caught the attention of everyone at the table. Silicon Valley, here we come. There was a roar and more clinking of glasses. To Silicon Valley. In the 6 months after that, it hit big, real big. I found myself making major deals, meeting with the bigwigs in the industry, and making a name for myself. Before my eyes, my dream, my business, was growing aggressively. I felt I had everything I could ever hope for, and had made my parents proud. I was thinking of just how happy my parents would be as I sat in a meeting one late monsoon evening. It was raining, and I was grateful it wasn't a more severe downpour. My parents, tired of waiting for me to come home, were en route to meet me after a long time. My phone vibrated on the conference table, and I pushed the button to stop it. It was the 3rd time in the last 10 minutes or so. The number was unknown, and only one voicemail had been left. I didn't want to interrupt the meeting as we were deep in discussion about the chance to expand one line of products by partnering with a new and upcoming business. Again, the phone buzzed and the display flashed unknown. Do you need to take that, Mr. Anubhav? My cheeks turned red that the meeting had halted because of me. Before I could answer, he continued. In fact, let's take a 15-minute break. As I walked out of the conference room, the phone vibrated in my hand again. Angry, I answered it. This better be important. I stepped out into the hallway and began pacing back and forth. Is this Mr. Anubhav? The timid voice caught me off guard and I stopped pacing. Yes. As I answered, I asked myself, why is my heart racing? 10? Shaurya, Jaipur. The traffic didn't fight me as hard on the ride home from the caf. Kasturi's words of encouragement were still echoing through me, caressing my soul, whispering, have faith in yourself. She was a special kind of friend who made me feel like nothing was out of my reach, that I could achieve anything. A life without her glances and smiles, would be insignificant and barren. The warmth of her smile led me through the sourest of thoughts. At times it felt like I was standing in a rainstorm of doubts, and a beam of sunlight had brought me back to life. Kasturi was indeed special to me. My shoulders were lighter, and I was eager to contemplate my dreams once more. Kasturi was right. My courage suffered because of a lack of confidence and faith in myself. These alone were more than enough to tie me down to the bench. Finally home, I was eager to lose myself in my thoughts in the comfort of the terrace. I slowed down when I hit the threshold of the terrace, as I saw Maria glancing up from her reading for a second. Her cheeks flushed, and she shut what looked to be a journal or diary of sorts. The motion was too abrupt, and it slipped from her hand. It fell on the terrace floor, and the pages flew open. She scrambled to pick it up, a sense of guilt in her motions. It was as if I had caught her red-handed in a crime and spooked her mid-act. Whoa! I blinked. Hands raised to show I was no threat, I took a few steps closer to her. Relax, I didn't mean to startle you, Maria. She looked up at me, wide-eyed and hugging her diary. Stay away from me. The hiss in her voice stung. Maria? She darted out of the terrace and down the stairs, leaving me completely confused. Chasing after her, I stopped at the top of the stairs and called after her. Maria! I couldn't see her anywhere. She had been too fast. Running my hand through my hair, I walked back to the terrace, baffled. Had I done something wrong? If so, what was it? Perhaps I came off as rude the other day on the terrace by not talking to her. She did seem certain she knew me. Sitting down, I closed my eyes, trying to recall if I had seen her before. Instead, my mind took me back to papers falling, and the man's frown at the railway station. Why did those memories come back into my mind so easily? Dropping my bag to the ground, I leaned on my knees as my mind spiraled in circles. The look on Maria's face was haunting me. She had run off so fearfully, and the stiffness in her body as I took those steps closer to her made me feel like a monster. What exactly was in that book, and what did it have to do with me? This was my third time meeting her. Each time she had acted so strangely. What was it with me that brought this out in her? Regardless, I couldn't help but worry if she was okay. I would have to ask Kasturi about it. Maybe she could tell me something about Maria's behavior. For some reason, deep down, I felt an agonizing guilt. Flustered, I gave up trying to enjoy the terrace and shuffled back home. The door shut heavily behind me, and before I made it through my own door, my dad called out to me. Come, sit down and talk with me for a minute. He was sitting in the living room enjoying some iced tea. How are your classes going? He asked. I shrugged. I hated talking about how well my studies were going. As much as I excelled, my heart was still not in it. Good, I guess, I mumbled. Just good, come on. He teased. I bet you're doing a fantastic job. Yes, I guess you could say that, I admitted. He leaned forward and clasped me on the shoulder. See? I knew this was where you were meant to be. But, no, Shaurya, you are excelling, just like I knew you would. I'm proud of you, son. I was telling everyone in my office about you, and they ask all the time. It makes me so proud to tell them what a great success you are in your studies and how perfect you will be as a CEO. I winced. As much as I wanted to enjoy his pride, I resented the fact that it was pride in the dream he chose for me, not one I'd chosen for myself. Seeing my discomfort, he quickly changed the subject. Did the class run late today? No, I said, sitting across from him. I ran into Kasturi in the market. Oh? This piqued his interest, and he smiled. How is Kasturi doing? Blushing, my eyes fell away from his face. She's good. Did you talk for long? He took a sip of his drink, waiting for my reply with a sparkle in his eye. Desperate to avoid the goofy expression on his face, I looked to the ceiling. I asked her to join me for a coffee. And we did talk for some time at the cafe. Good, good. He nodded happily. Didn't her cousin come from Mumbai recently? Yes, Mariah is her name, and she's apparently a famous interior designer. I said, and continued before he could ask any more questions, I'm going to go do some studying in my room. Call me when dinner is ready. My room was dark, but this was typical, this late in the evening. The sun had reached the other side of the building, casting shade across the outer wall. Sitting on my bed, I grabbed one of my photography magazines. My eyes fell on my camera, which I now rarely used. It pained me to see it, a relic of a life I had once dared to dream about. Flopping onto my back, I flipped from one random page to the next. Images and colors flashed before me. People, animals, flowers, sprawling landscapes, and skillfully altered imagery blinked in and out of existence. Tiring of the taunts of what could have been, I placed the magazine on my nightstand. None of these distractions had taken my mind off Mariah's face. What could warrant such a volatile reaction? Was she more angry than fearful? Even then, what had brought it on? I ruffled my hair in frustration. All I wanted was to make a good impression on her for Kasturi's sake. I had failed, somewhere, and somehow. My life seemed to be spiraling in all directions, and I couldn't tell which part I needed to clean up first. At least my parents were content with me.